Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the 19th Annual ASRC Resource Fair and for taking the leap to virtual. Thank you for helping us pivot in this new world. We're excited to share over 90 exhibitors with you. Please stop by to visit them during the day. And we are honored to have Dr. Roger Joe with us as our keynote speaker this morning. Welcome. As a psychiatrist and researcher at the Yale Child Study, his work for the past 20 years has focused on autism across the lifespan with game-changing approach to improving quality of life using diverse simultaneous strategies. Dr. Joe founded and leads CASY Sparks Autism Innovation and Discovery, providing free social recreation, education, and support for many autism communities. He's also the principal investigator for SPARK at Yale. SPARK is the largest genetic study of autism ever, and Yale is one of a dozen participating in the research across the United States. He does a whole lot more than this, but we only have 30 minutes. So thank you to Dr. Joe for being with us today and starting us off.
Great, thanks so much, Julie, for having me. This is something that is really exciting to me. So it really fits perfectly with this event. And I also want to thank everyone out there for joining, whether you're sort of on this live stream or you're viewing sometime afterwards via recording. I guess at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, right? Because we're all sort of staring at a computer screen or some sort of electronic display. But the flip side to that is that you can pretty much be anywhere you want. As long as you've got an internet connection and of course, practicing the vitally important physical distancing. So that sort of brings me to my talk, which I will pull up right now. Now the talk is entitled How Physical Distancing Brought Us Even Closer Together. And I know that it may sound a bit contradictory because how can you be closer together if you're apart? And I can't say that I believed it myself until I saw it. Now, can you see the screen, Julie? Okay, wonderful. All right, so I'm going to tell you the story of how this physical distancing phenomenon, actually brought our community together. And you can see for yourself afterwards, if you are a believer, then that's great. And I think that'll even make your resource fair even more enjoyable because it's sort of the entire principle. All right, so. Okay, so just first some disclosures. We do receive support from SPARK, which is the research study I'll be talking about later today. Also, the work that we've been doing regarding the community has been supported by the Daniel Jordan Fiddle Foundation for Adult Autism. So they've been supporting us since 2014, and we've also received a generous gift from the Rosen family. So I want to start the talk out with this, this poem here, which I really think needs no introduction. Very famous poem, so I'll read it here. I shall be telling this with a sigh. Somewhere, ages and ages hence, two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. So imagine a journey. You're taking a journey, whether it be a hike through the woods or something like a new project, or new initiative or new movement you're trying to start. And things are going along, really well. And then suddenly, there's a fork in the road, and you then have a decision to make. And from this wisdom, it seems like if you take the less conventional route, you will be rewarded for that. So let me tell you about the journey, a little background of it. Project CASY started in 2014. It was originally a support group for families and people on the spectrum, and opportunity for people on the spectrum to have social opportunities. communities. And you can see the evolution over the years of how this logo changed. Actually, this first change was driven by a lot of feedback from our members. And then this most recent change was driven by, the quite radical transformation, of the program, since or in response to the pandemic. But the mission has always really been the same. So from 2014, it was all about nurturing a community, not just for something temporarily, helping people through a tough time in their life, but, really something that people could have for the rest of their lives. So it would be something that, from when people were maybe young as children, and became adults and became retired, that people would always have a community which they could feel supported. There's been a lot of change, but really that has been the underlying principle. And the program in a nutshell is these few bullet points. And this is all from 2016. So you can see that things are pretty steady. So it's always been a cost-free group. It's supported by professionals. It has this hybrid model, which uses a combination of sort of online and in-person approaches. And also it's a hybrid in other ways in that, it consists of professionals, families, people on the spectrum, their friends, anyone who has a interest in improving or supporting that community. Really, the bottom line was always pretty simple, is we're trying to improve quality of life. And it's always been an organic approach, meaning that it's not top down, whereas we as professionals dictate what happens, but a lot of it is guided by the community members who are actively participating. And that's something that you'll see in later on the slides. In-person meetings were very, very common. In fact, prior to the pandemic, it was 100% in person. We had this online component, which we always wanted to develop, but there was such a strong need or a very strong desire to meet in person that the online component back in those days, was more of a way to administer the group, in terms of making announcements and making sure people got information. So I'm going to share some images of, I'm going to go down memory lane. So these are some images of the group prior to the pandemic. It really kind of runs the gamut of activities. So, you're seeing here, we've got some hiking going on. We've got, some presentations. We had these video arcade groups and children's art. In this picture, some of the more fun things that we do is, we do have these holiday themed parties. This obviously is a Halloween, which, by the way, wasn't this past Halloween. It was Halloween last year. And sort of followed by a limbo dance. And if you want to see people's hidden talents, you should come to this when we open it back up. Also, we've had virtual reality experiences, rock band, if you're into like karaoke or singing or pretending that you're playing instruments, which I happen to like. And one of the funnest events is our annual Nutcracker Winter Social Gala, which is a fun event which has a Yankee swap led by one of our members. So seem to be working pretty well, or at least according to this graph here. You'll see since our founding in April 2014, the membership has steadily risen. And right around, what was that, March 2018, we actually started integrating different social media approaches. And I think that helped us even more develop the group and increase the membership. Okay, but it's not all rosy here. It is a fairly small group that's administering CASY Sparks. So you'll see that this is number of people going, and you'll see sort of climbs up to a certain point, and then it really starts dipping down. So the issue here, we believe, is that as you get more and more people, you need more and more things, to engage people. So you're wondering what the heck was going on with that. So we decided to plot a map of where all our members are in Connecticut. So on Meetup, people can say which city and state they're from. So these are the people who volunteered that information. And you can see from this picture that here we are down here in Southern Connecticut. And then all the members, there's a concentration in the southern part and in towards Hartford, but it's pretty spread out throughout the state. And this is a good thing, but the drawback is that if you're talking about going to an event and you're living in one of the corners of the state, or you're living in even the next town over, that can be, a pretty big barrier. So in-person events are sort of by their nature exclusionary to people who live further away. And it's something that we've heard, from our members as well. And this is some of the barriers we're hearing about. So transportation, obviously, even when we're talking about driving into the city of New Haven, navigating the large medical center, parking is always difficult. It's a big place, so even you're supposed to find the room in this large medical center, and be there at a certain time. So that generally requires lots of planning and organization, and especially if there's a lot of unknowns that you're going to come across. We've had people talk about anxiety, being in a large group with people and not knowing what to do, or feeling sort of overwhelmed, say there's too much noise, or there's certain things, smells, some noises, or the lighting that might bother them. And there's also people having mixed feelings about, this is gonna help me or not? Someone's telling me to do this, but I'm not really believing it. So that ambivalence, is going to be a big barrier, especially when the act of actually attending is, a really big lift for them. Other folks, they want to be supported in events, but it's not always the case that family members who they want to come with them, or other support people, can actually do that. So even though this looks, very fun and seems like it's just all good, there is some drawbacks to it. And I think you can see another problem with this is that the pictures you see, tend to have a lot of people, and a lot of them are around major events. So a major event is something that we feel has a big draw to it. So if people are coming from far away, then they're going to tend to only go to those events that have the most people.
JR? No.
Two JRs.
All right. Sorry. Let me just. Okay. Great. So, what happens, with smaller events? Well, smaller events, since there may be less of an attraction, they tend to be less attended, and you have inconsistent attendance. So one of the big problems is if you're making friends, you can't just rely on these major events to meet people, because you're not meeting them frequently enough for really for that to happen. All right, so we had to do something about it. And that something was sort of forced upon us when the pandemic hit us, where we had these very, some strict rules, all for public safety.
Why are you doing that?
And that one of the most vital being, the social distancing. So the dilemma here is that, you've got social distancing, which seems to be at odds with social connection. We like the word physical distancing because it really emphasizes that really what you need is just to be physically distant from people, but you don't necessarily have to be socially disconnected. So the challenge was to figure out a way where people could be physically distant, but at the same time, more connected to each other. So it wasn't one or the other.
We're gonna put this
Not
in the
that
bag,
you
okay?
stayed at home and became lonely, and had your anxiety ramp up, but you could do something about that while you're staying at home. And so we made this quick pivot to something we call distance socializing. So basically just sort of the words in reverse. And really this was of paramount importance to us because we knew what the consequences were if people did not connect with one another. At the same time, we're all well aware of the consequences if they don't maintain the guidelines, the COVID guidelines. So you'll see in these examples that we've got our calendars for March, April, May, June. So this is sort of around pandemic time when it all started. March is more of a reflection of the regular schedule. And you'll see in April, May, June, our meetings escalated pretty much. So on average, we are having, say prior to the pandemic, 3 events per month. During the pandemic, you'll see in these schedules that, we're offering events, every day. In some cases, like 3 or more events, and also weekend events, so, and this was really because, we were able to do things virtual. So the efficiency by which you can offer things is much higher, so you can do things more often. All right, and so what kind of things are we doing? Well, we have quite a variety here. So these are just some examples. These are, when we post events, we have to pick an image that goes with the announcement of the event. So these are just some examples of the various images we've had. It really runs the gamut. We had, let's see, sort of events focused on discussing COVID. We had, more fun and games type events like Pictionary. We had icebreaker, team building events. We had sort of unstructured lunchtimes together. Let's see, self-help groups, advocacy groups. There's a women's group. Let's see, events around special interests, movie watching events, YouTube events. It really is the possibilities really become infinite, especially, when you're have a platform that does have some degree of flexibility. You certainly have to be creative in what you think about, but within the parameters, you can come up with a lot. So right before the summer, we had run some 160 events via Zoom. So that really gives you an idea of what is possible using the platform. And if you don't believe me, I'm going to have you speak or listen to one of our members, and he's going to share his experience.
Hi, my name is Joel Conrad. When I was age 33, I ended up meeting.
Can you hear this okay?
Project through meetup.com. I also helped me connect
Yes.
with the autism spectrum to be more social and talk about interesting topics and all that stuff. My favorite group would be the Ginger Ale Happy Hour, the book discussions, and Level Up Your Fitness. I like doing meditation, I'm into yoga, working on my self and being a present, being a moment, being to practice daily stuff in my daily life and continuing growth in that. I got introduced to a meditation group in California online through Zoom because of the CASY group. I have more fun and interesting talking about topics and interesting things that I like to get into because I'm very into heavy conversations, heavy topics, and the books I've read, and those have a book discussion that I like to attend to.
All right.
Hi, my name is Joel Conrad.
All right, so this is a picture of the ginger ale happy hour that he was referring to. So this is every Fridays at 4 o'clock. We have a large gathering of folks from actually across the country. Put the smiley faces there to protect privacy, but everyone's smiling, I promise. So the ladies that you see there, it's Annie, Aniela, and Cheyenne. They are the big helpers that help me pull all this stuff together. So a big thanks to them. And you can see this is the same graph I showed you before, except extends it out a little bit to the sun, to actually the May of 2020. So you see the steady rise, starts to decline, and then certainly around the pandemic time, it really hits an all-time low. But with the new programming, you see a very large spike, in the number of people going. So in that month of May, some 694 people attending. So more people. And again, we were talking before about when you have more people, you have to have more offerings. So the four of us, certainly would not be able to sustain this, but we have a big community, and part of the community, was to empower them, and to guide people on how to develop things on their own, take something that they liked, and turn it into something that they can share with other people, So good problem to have, and the good solution was asking our community members, if they wanted to participate in a different way. And we've had a great response to that. And you see here, these are some of the images associated with the groups that are co-hosted by our members. So we have a fitness group, there's a book club, we had an advocacy group, and a group called STAR, which you're going to hear about in a little bit, that does a lot of different things, from social recreation type events like bingo, or what was it, name that tune, to things like discussing personal topics or sort of issues that are weighing on adults on the spectrum. So let me introduce you to Sarah Allen. Sarah is one of our longstanding CASY Sparks members. Been in the group for years, and over time, her and another member, Anna Kraus, came up with this idea of STAR Support Group. So I'll let her speak right now.
My name is Sarah Allen. Myself and Anna are running a STAR Support Group. It stands for Support, Teach, Advocate, Respect. We help young adults and also other people on the spectrum with life skills and in-depth conversations about autism and learning about themselves. Through the time of COVID-19, it has hit us hard tremendously. Since we can't do a lot of indoor lectures at Dale Child Study Center, and we can't do a lot of events outside, we decided to take all our events and lectures on Zoom. How it has helped me personally, it helps me express my feelings, my voice, and my own way about spreading autism awareness / acceptance to the world so we can be a better place in the autism community.
All right.
Hello.
Next up is Michelle Bauman. She is an adult on the spectrum who is the leader of our book club. She's also a coach and an advocate, and well, she's got a lot to say about her experience.
Hi, I'm Michelle, and I'm a late-in-life diagnosed adult on the autism spectrum, and I am also a parent of a child on the autism spectrum. I've been aware of the CASY program since 2014, but I've never before been able to participate in any of its in-person offerings because the commute would have been too exhausting for me, and because I have photosensitivity, which impairs my night driving vision. This all changed when Dr. Joe decided to offer his program online in response to the COVID-19 shutdown. Since becoming a CASY member, I have felt supported, connected, and welcomed. This has been so meaningful and so important to me, especially in these uncertain times of isolation, that I wanted to give something back. So I created the book discussion group, where we discuss books that have the potential to improve the lives of autistics, as well as have an opportunity to meet autistic authors. My book discussion group has attracted participants from Texas, Louisiana, United Kingdom, and Holland, and authors from Canada, Maine, and Massachusetts. I like doing this project because it allows me to use my skills, strengths, and experience, and it allows me to help my fellow autistics improve their lives. Thank you.
Yes, and I should mention that Michelle has created some great opportunities for our members. She even had the very famous Stephen Shore come speak in one of our groups about his books.
Hi, I'm
All right, so let's revisit this again. So again, we've got this membership scattered throughout Connecticut, but after this online stuff, and I think online and virtual programming has a lot of benefits, and one of the sort of natural consequences that happens is, when things are available and doesn't depend on location to participate, then you've got people pretty much from all over the place, as long as they're interested and can access the technology. So the bigger picture here is our membership across the Northeast. So you can see that there is an expansion into the surrounding states. But I think more interesting is sort of this expansion, across the United States. So these pictures are about a few weeks old, so they're relatively current. But you can see that, it really doesn't matter where you are. I mean, the only challenge really is getting the time zones right. So you can't have things too early in the morning, or the folks on the other time zones will have a harder time participating. But what's even interesting in this last one is you've got some stuff outside the United States as well. And you would expect that this increased interaction between our members of the group also benefits the people who are helping to run the group. So ever since we've done things virtual and we've made taken more efforts on social media to connect with people, we're even partnering a lot more with our partners or our neighbors here in Connecticut. And this is just a kind of a collage of the different kinds of events that we've had as a result of this increased partnership with our neighbors here in Connecticut. And this is an example of the list. It seems to grow every month, but obviously Autism Services Resources of Connecticut, Autism Families of Connecticut in Newington, Chapel Haven Schleifer Center here in New Haven, Planning Across the Spectrum, out in Farmington, Sklover Life Love Productions in Brantford, Sun Moon Stars in Watertown, the Nest Coffee House and A Little Compassion in Deep River, and it goes on. The Next Street, the Social Chase, or the Letter Critters, Vista Life Innovations along the shoreline. And again, I think that this is just going to continue to grow. And it's a very exciting time with these new partnerships. And of course, since we have partnership in the state, it's only natural to think that we may have a few outside the state. So we've connected with Becca Lori Hector, which some of you probably know, well-known advocate and neurodiversity / autism expert out in Colorado. And more recently, the Autism Cafe, founded by Eileen Lamb. They're located down in Texas. All right. These other partners we've had, they preceded the pandemic, but we are also very grateful for the support that they've provided. All right, so just before I wrap up, just a word of caution. And there's a lot of mixed feelings about technology and especially social media. But I think that along the way, this quote from this Nobel Prize winner, Lous Lange, is very relevant today. You said this back in like the 1920s, so that's really the impressive part. Technology is a useful servant, but dangerous master. So here you have a powerful tool, and depending on how you use that tool, depends on whether it benefits you, or if you misuse the tool, it can actually be quite harmful. So this is not something that should be done without a lot of caution. And the other point I'd like to make is, a lot of the ideas here we're not, the concern is that, is everything going to be electronic? And, the answer to that is no. These are not permanent replacements for traditional, personal interaction. And I see that their role beyond the pandemic may become supplementary or assistive in nature. So if you think about a toolbox where you have things to, address a problem, you're trying to accomplish something, it's just one of those things or another set of things in the toolbox that you can draw upon to achieve your goals. All right, and I think we're almost out of time. Oh, we are out of time. All right, so the short answer to that question, or the short answer to the title of the talk is, join the social distance socializing movement. Travel on the path less traveled, and then you will sort of also see and reap the benefits. If you haven't already, then you can start by participating in the ASRC Resource Fair, which has all of the traditional resource fair elements, but all online and accessible from wherever you are. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Dr. Joe.